have gone over the basics of how to use SynthMaster. Let's go over frequency modulation and phase modulation. We're going to be using these modulators on the side over here now in our routing area. So we're going to refer to anything that modulates something else, and that's these things right here, these modulators. We're going to refer to those as modulators. And then anything that we are affecting, such as oscillator 1 and 2, those will be considered the carriers. All of these can be called operators, but these operators specifically are our modulators, and then these operators specifically are our carriers. So to start with, let's go ahead and turn off oscillator 1. Or sorry, oscillator 2. So now we're only on oscillator 1. Let's go ahead and choose a sine wave. Now, to engage my FM synth, I just have to say which modulator I want to affect oscillator 1 or modulate oscillator 1. Let's use modulator number 1. Now, modulator number 1 is modulating the frequency of oscillator 1 based on the keyboard movements I have. So when I go up the scale and I'm telling these oscillators to play certain frequencies, it's telling my modulators to play the exact same frequencies. Compare that to your LFO where it's got a fixed rate. So now, I can change it to be not phase modulation, but how about frequency modulation? Let's go to polyphonic mode. So now, that's the sound of a sine wave on our carrier being modulated by a sine wave in our modulator. And notice how I'm clicking between modulator and oscillator. They're very similar. There's only a couple of differences here. So if I want to further modulate this, I'm on my modulator number 1. I can have it be, I can have my modulator be transposed up by an entire octave each time I go up a number. So this is 1 octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves, and so on and so forth. Or I can adjust it by semitone. So perhaps I want my modulator to be 7 semitones higher than my oscillator. Semitone 7. Kind of gives it a bell tone. Now, to really use your FM synth to reflect what an analog FM synth is doing, you have to have your offset on your modulator. So here's offset right here. By clicking this and turning it up, I'm making it so that I never dip into the negative area compared to this way where I go positive, negative. Listen what happens when I change this as I'm playing a note. So when you have the offset all the way up, you not only get the sidebands or the additional frequencies created by FM, but you also get the fundamental note as well. It's not very musical when you're kind of going in between. You can also adjust the coarse tuning of your modulator here if you want to go into the negatives. Adjusting the fine tune of your modulator that's affecting your carrier will give it a nice little wobble. That's a fun thing to modulate with, say, maybe an LFO or an ADSR envelope. If I wanted this to be phase modulation, I just click on frequency, change to phase. The fun thing about this is the offset. It doesn't go into a weird tone that's not musical. It's almost controlling timbre instead. Now, there's other little things I could do here, same thing I can do to all my operators is the pitch drift and amount. So on my oscillator 1, if I want it to drift kind of in its pitch as if it's emulating some sort of electrical discrepancy between the synthesizer and whatever power supply we're using, this is how much it's going to kind of, the depth of how it'll wobble with its pitch. kind of emulating an old oscillator, and then this is the speed at which it wobbles. Kind of gives it a nice tonality that's pretty analog. Okay.